take us through how investors have been playing the week, Gemma Dale from nabtrade joining us. Gemma, great to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right, now what's happened with volumes this week? Because it's certainly been a little quieter than it was the previous week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just really thinning out now. It's certainly not where we would have seen the market 2 years ago when, frankly, it was actually grinding higher. 2019 was an amazing year overall, but investors didn't feel that way, and so volumes were quite low through that period. Last year was obviously extraordinary. It's higher than 2 years ago, nowhere near as high as last year, obviously. We would never try to compare to that again at this kind of time, but investors are mostly sitting on the sidelines. It has to be something, either they're really, really active traders and they're trying to make something out of something always, or alternatively, they're waiting for a pretty dramatic move to get excited.
So what's on the top of the buy list? Is it FMG once again?
It's FMG once again.
You're sounding like a broken record.
I feel this way. It's really quite upsetting. 6 months ago it wasn't. So
Yeah.
at least it's a relatively recent addition to the top traded, but it is aggressively traded. It is amazing how consistently it comes through. So it was 2 or 3 times some of the other stocks during the week. And the second most traded stock would be half as much volume as Fortescue. So people are really into it. I mean, it had a big bounce yesterday. It's having a bounce again today, and people will trim it in that situation. We'll see them buying again when it comes off. There's just so much volatility in the iron ore price, and it's been so astonishing. And there's so much news for people to follow. So if you're following that news, you're looking at what's happening overnight. You've got something to trade during the day. For people who are looking for an active trading opportunity, and particularly if they're moving big sums in and out, which is what we see in Fortescue, very, very high average trade sizes, the kind of stock they love.
Yeah. Well, let's get a little more specific then with some other stocks that have been moving. Because Costa Group, we had that update yesterday, heavily sold off. So interested to get your point of view of what investors think of that at the moment. And also AMP, perhaps the other story there, given its price has risen significantly too.
So as I was saying, people are looking for those really big price movements and they're waiting for the opportunity. Costa Group, over a 90% buy yesterday, so it was amazing how many people saw that as an opportunity to get in. It was down over 20%. That's a reasonably big slice off the price of people who've been looking at it for a while. And it does seem to be one that people are willing to trade on big movements. So it's quite interesting. So we saw a lot of enthusiasm for it. AMP is a different story completely. So it was up 8.5% and was over a 94% sell. So people are very, very keen to trim that stock when they get an opportunity. We do have quite a mature cohort in the base. We have a lot of investors who would have held AMP for a really, really long time, maybe not since demutualisation.
Well, back to those days where it was a core shareholding, wasn't it?
There was an institution in Australia that I won't name that was willing to buy AMP for $20 a share back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and thankfully didn't get that transaction away. But had they, you imagine the experience of loss during that period, that's 21 years, and you've managed to write it down 90%, 95%, and our investors have been holding through fairly painful periods, and they're just waiting for a little bit of a bounce to get rid of it. They just don't want to hang on to it any longer.
What about the buy now, pay later space? Any action there? Afterpay trading lower today, but are they still buys?
They're not really active. Certainly with Afterpay, it's sort of gone to the sidelines a bit. It was, it was always top 10 for 3 or 4 years. It was top 10, very, very popular. We don't see that much anymore unless it has a huge move in a day. At the moment, Zip has come back in as a trading stock, which is interesting. And the other one that's come in as a trading stock, and this is new for traders, is Kogan. It's moving around a lot at the moment. You made that comment before, and clearly that is one where they can see enough volatility to trade it. So it came in, very significant profit downgrades and pretty bad news that was priced in immediately. People saw it as an opportunity, but they're trading it now. They're not getting in and buying it to hold for the long term.
Another one that's seen a lot of movement this week is Imugene.
Yeah. Yes, I can't believe I haven't mentioned it. So Imugene is the new favourite. That's been quite fascinating. I mean, it's not a revenue story yet. It's mostly working on licensing arrangements and news, but a lot of investors see it as a good long-term opportunity. They want to be part of that story if it takes off. Price is up over 1,000% over 12 months. So for any of them who are holding it previously, they've done quite well. When it fell away the other day, there was a lot of buying. They're kind of like, look, we can see the bounce coming. We want to get in for that. So it's been really, really popular, really small trade sizes, but people who are pretty excited to get in there.
Let's talk international stocks. The meme stocks are back. AMC up almost 40% overnight. GameStop back in the action. Are you seeing something similar on the platform?
This is so amazing to me. We were talking about this in January, right? You remember sort of late January, it was the big thing. And it was very, here are sort of wild, crazy children reading Reddit and trading away their life savings. And the assumption was that this was going to be a series of really poor trades for people and they were going to lose a lot of money. And that doesn't seem to be what's happened. We did have a small number of people who were looking at it back then. AMC has been in there the last couple of days. It's had this bounce and it's been sold off. So our guys were buying it at around, in trade sizes of about $1,000, right? Tiny trade sizes. It bounces 40%. We suddenly see an average trade on a sell at 1,400. So they've taken that bounce and they're getting out. At the other end of the spectrum, GameStop, which was obviously terribly popular and we saw the buying, we are seeing also some trades, but at massive, massive sizes. So the average trade over $100,000 is about 87% of the total trades we're seeing go through. So this is an enormous trade size compared to the thousands. And they're kind of interested in it again. It's quite interesting, and people who clearly know what they're doing. You're not chucking $100,000 around at something if you don't know what it's all about.
I'd be interested to see whether people are thinking, well, that crypto sector's not working. Let's maybe go back to those meme stocks.
Funnily enough, Coinbase is in there.
Yes.
So that is one way of playing the crypto story. It's come down pretty dramatically from its listing, which was only relatively recently. And so we're seeing a little bit of interest in it, but it's not as hot as back to the old gaming stocks, literally gaming stocks.
Gemma, thanks as always for joining us from nabtrade.
Good to see you.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Gemma.